Happy Friday, y'all. Welcome to the docket. I'm your host, Bob Mata, and here we are once again. Case never sleeps. I mean, when I say that, I don't know if there's a better name for this case than the case that never sleeps. It's literally the case that never. I mean, there's a filing every day, and what we can anticipate, just so y'all know, like when this thing's over, it's either going to end up with Baldwin and Rosie on the case. It's either going to end up with Baldwin and Rosie booted off the case. It's either going to end up with Baldwin and Rosie in jail. I mean, it's hard to know what's going to happen on Monday. But there was a couple filings today. I felt, as I always do, it was incumbent upon me to go through them. You guys know I like to do that. It's kind of my game, you know. I don't do the other stuff. I don't do the exposés. You know, I'm not trying to, dig into people's shit. It's not my thing. I like to go through the documents. I like to try to give y'all the straight up facts on what's going on with these pleadings. And I leave the rest of that stuff to everyone else. So we had a couple of actual filings today, and there was a letter that was filed. I can't remember if it was Greeno's or Frank's, but whatever the case may be, I will not be reviewing those, as I've told you. To be honest with you, I don't know. They're not parties. The letters, had they consulted with an attorney, the attorney would have told them to send it either to the state or the defense, not the judge. The judge doesn't especially if it's evidence. You don't send evidence to the judge. That's just, I mean, that's what happens if you're not a lawyer and trying to play like you're one on TV. You send things to the wrong place. So at any rate, I'm sure you guys can watch other lives, and catch what those things are all about. I'm not going to be covering them. Sorry. But I will be covering Nick McCleland's filing from today, and additionally Hennessy's. Funny story. So I got up this morning. Of course, there were a couple more filings. I'm like, oh my God, creating my tweet or my X, whatever you want to call it. And, and I, without reading them, which is my fault completely, sometimes it's like I open my eyes and they're there. I'm like, oh my God. All right. Like, I just got to get these things up. And I thought they were both filed by McCleland. And so, there was the because I opened first the objection to defendant's multiple motions. I'm like, all right, Nick's responded kind of in a, to multiple motions, kind of in one motion or one response to the motion, kind of a uniform objection to all the pleadings that had been filed by the defense over the past few days. And then I just assumed, which we all know what that means. You know what happens if you assume things. And I definitely made an ass out of myself because I said, oh, well, McCleland's filed a couple of things and, it's game on, I guess, and I'd glanced through enough of the first thing we'll go through, which is the objection, to know that obviously Nick McCleland was not, he was not on board with any kind of continuance for Monday. He wants this to go through. And at this point, I imagine he's probably prepared enough to where he's like, fuck it, let's go. I'm like, I don't want to push it off. I'm ready to go now. So let's do it. And I can't say I'm surprised, obviously. I was hopeful, it's like, what I was saying, what I've been saying with respect to preparation time for the thing that matters, which is trial. Nothing else matters. People are like, there's some guy that tweets me all the time. He's like, oh, Well, I'm sure the families would love to hear that, you don't think that the leaking of photographs of 2 dead girls matters at all, and I'm like, "Well, um, that's not what I'm saying." I think we all agree that anybody that is a big enough scumbag to go into somebody's office, a lawyer's office, who would never in a million years think that a friend would breach their friendship and trust like that and takes pictures and then sends them around, I mean, that sucks. I mean, no one's saying that that doesn't suck. Do I wish that Andy would have had better security? But it's like I have a hard time casting shade on him because I've been in cases like this. I've had war rooms, and I've had employees that were non-lawyers in my building, and I never thought to lock rooms up because you just don't think that somebody is that shitty and that desperate for something. I don't know what it is to sneak in and start taking pictures, which really, I mean, like, what are you doing with them? Like, if you're the person that decides to put the pictures out, and you try to do it anonymously, like, the entire world's gonna be all over you. Like, because everyone's gonna think that you're the biggest piece of shit. Like, no one's gonna be like, "Oh, this guy's awesome. This guy, like, look at this guy. He's like, no, there is like not a human being on the planet is gonna be like in support of the person who actually leaked them out to the public at large, which did not happen, thankfully. And as we know now, I mean, when we read through the last couple of pleadings, I mean, Holman was, whether he was just using Judge Gull's name as, kind of a tool in terms of saying, look, going to everybody and say, you got to turn this shit over. Like, she's adamant that these things don't make it out to the public at mass, and I mean, it was effective. I mean, they never did, thankfully. It's like, that's a whole different conversation that I'm not going to get into tonight. But, the end result is it didn't happen in terms of a mass leak that hit online. I mean, there's always the concern that somebody out there, some wounded soul, would put those out for public consumption. I just hope that the amount of shame, because with the amount of people that want to dig in cases, just in general, not even this one, should that happen, I have zero doubt that thousands of people would actively be working to figure out who it was if somebody tried to do it on the DL. I mean, and then when that person gets exposed, I wouldn't want to be them, So I hope that threat and that knowledge that that's exactly what would occur would stop anybody that may have these things still in their possession from ever disseminating them to the public at large. All right, so um, let's go through it. So obviously, you guys know Hennessy had filed a couple of continuance types motions. He filed the one that we went over on the 13th, and then he kind of followed it up the next day, along with a few other motions. And then Nick responded today. So let's go through it. Objection to defendant's multiple motions to continue and defendant's motion to stay. Now comes the state of Indiana by prosecuting attorney Nicholas McCleland, and respectfully objects to the multiple motions for continuance of the hearing on the contemptuous conduct scheduled for March 18th, 2024 at 9 a.m. State also objects to the court staying the proceedings until after the trial in this matter. The state would ask the court to consider the following. One, that the defense filed a verified emergency motion for continuance on March 13th, 2024, with various supplements filed thereafter. That paragraph 2, then on that the defense filed a motion to stay the ancillary proceedings on March 13th, 2024. I thought that was filed the next day, but I don't know. 3, that the motions are asking the court to continue the hearings on contemptuous conduct set for the 18th of March in Allegan County Superior Court, that the defense's reason for the continuance in relation to the new evidence are not well founded by the state. I've read that sentence multiple times today, and try to make sense of it. I mean, I get what his overarching theme is, but I don't like it that it reads odd to me a little bit. But like when these guys are rushing through the motions, like the Hennessy's motion, like Friday, you could tell they're rushing through. Like when they're rushing through, because they're all, really in theory should be preparing for the actual trial. And they're just trying to pound these things out. They're not proofreading it. You're not going to get proper punctuation, things of that nature. I mean, I've been there, like, so I'm not casting shade. I mean, I've been on that side of it. So, and it happens. It's not optimal. But I don't take it as any kind of indication of bad lawyering. I just consider it to be a rush job in general. 5, that this is the defense's second time asking the court to continue the hearing on contemptuous conduct. I'm not sure what that one means either. So I don't know. I don't know what, like, is he speaking about since this was filed? Yeah, maybe I'm just forgetting. There's so many filings. You'll have to forgive me if I've forgotten. I can't remember if the defense asked for this to be continued. Oh, yes, they did. That's right. This is supposed to go back in February. So he's correct there. 6, that the state objects to any continuance of the hearings on the contemptuous conduct set for the 18th, that the state objects to staying the proceedings until after trial, and that the state has notified the defense of its objection prior to the defense filing the motions. Wherefore, now comes the state of Indiana, by and through Nicholas McCleland, and files his objection to the defense's various motions to continue with the supplements and the motion to stay proceedings. So, I mean, it's pretty bare bones. I don't know. I think Nick probably has realized that with Gull, he doesn't need to spend a bunch of time throwing law in there. He just needs to state his objection and say, I'm not down with it. And he doesn't really have to give any reasons why, which he didn't. And ultimately, so that this thing gets filed today. And as we sit here now at 7:35 my time, 8:35 Eastern, Gold didn't enter an order, which is interesting because in terms of it would have been easy for her to just enter an order saying denied, right? And instead, now this is left to Monday. I mean, I like the clerk's not working over the weekend, I'm assuming. So I don't know that she could get an order out to the people. I mean, maybe that there's an email going around wherein she's letting counsel know that this is going, I'm assuming. But they're going to show up Monday because they have to, because they don't know otherwise. There's no actual knowledge in terms of a court order on whether or not this thing's going. So in those situations, as counsel, you go. You have no choice. There's a hearing set. So it doesn't matter that you filed it. And, wouldn't it be something if they got there on Monday and she continued it after they took the drive? I mean, the only saving grace is that we have the hearing at 2 p.m. If, and I have to be honest, with the magnitude of shit showedness that I fully expect this thing to be, like, I've been practicing law for a long time. Y'all know that, like 2 decades, and I have never in my entire life seen anything like what is going to happen on Monday. It's like I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. It's going to be just with content creators in there, and it's going to be something else. It's going to be something else. And like, I've been sitting here trying to think, I'm like, all right, well, if I'm trying to handle this, which way am I going about it? Because like, if I'm thinking about it strategically, and if I'm Hennessy and I'm kind of filing these, additional witness lists and, disclosures of witnesses and exhibits, like part of me is probably filing it strategically in the hopes that McCleland's going to say, "Oh, fuck, well, what's this all about?" Like what, like hoping to make McCleland nervous. I think there's probably some of that gamesmanship in here, because when I'm trying to figure out, but I know nothing. I know nothing in terms of what people are going to testify to that the defense is calling, because McCleland's going to go in there. He's going to put, I'm assuming, Holman on, maybe Liggett, whoever was involved with the investigation. He may have some witnesses aside from law enforcement. I don't know, and he's like, it's his burden initially. So it's his motion. So he's going to start. He'll put his witnesses on. Hennessy will cross them. And then it becomes the defense's turn to put on their case or their defense. And then, obviously Hennessy is going to put on his witnesses. He'll direct examine them. And then McCleland gets the opportunity to cross them, and it's like, it's such an unusual circumstance because of the legal argument of it, and it's like, I tell you all the time, when the difference between hearings that require, or motions, I should say, that require a hearing wherein you're going to have witnesses testifying, and hearings that are basically only legal argument. Now, I want to go through the second thing, which is Hennessy's. He filed a memorandum, and this is the thing that I mistakenly thought was drafted by McCleland this morning, and I sent it out. And then I sent out my egregious error tweet that I had credited McCleland with this particular pleading, and when in fact it was Hennessy. And then when I retweeted the egregious thing, I had credited Michael Osbrook is drafting this. And then I'm like, I get to the bottom of it after I finally read it, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Hennessy. So I have to be honest, it reads like an Osbrook to me, it does. So, or it did, you know what I mean? Like, it had that kind of that feeling, minus a little bit of Osbrook's snark, is like older than dirt type stuff, which we all know and love. So like, it kind of like what I'm saying about the hearings, where you have hearings where, like, I don't have a problem with Gull denying them without hearing. I mean, I of course would like to see her reasoning in terms of denying, in terms of her rationale in the law on what she relied on to deny it, just for the record. But I'm not sweating her on there not being a hearing. I mean, there's many legal argument type hearings where the judge can just rule on the paper. It's not unusual, but when you have things like the Franks, for her not to hold a hearing, at least a preliminary hearing to determine whether or not there's enough there for Franks, it's not proper. It's really not. I mean, like, motions to suppress where you're going to put a cop on in order to determine whether or not they violated somebody's Fourth Amendment rights, you have to have a hearing. Like, how are you ruling on that without the benefit of having a hearing, because you haven't heard the testimony? It's like you can only put so much in terms of a motion to suppress in writing. The rest of it has to come through witness testimony and evidence. So I don't know. You guys kind of know where I'm at with how Judge Gull's been running this thing. All right, so this is the memorandum concerning contempt proceedings. Undersigned counsel incorporates herein by reference as if fully set out. And Professor Osbrook's, see, that's why, that's like, I was half reading it and I saw Osbrook's name, and I'm like, oh, all right, Michael's back writing again. Pleading titled, Defense Counsel's motion for summary denial of the state's verified information for contemptuous conduct. Like, so when I was reading this, like going back to that story, so I was reading this morning, I'm like, God, I'm like, I read the first thing, the press release, and I'll read through it. And I'm like, the gag order was issued on December 2nd, 2022, that states explicitly that it was issued in response to the defense press release from December 1, 2022. Thus, the press release could not have violated an order issued the next day. To the extent that the press release may have violated a rule of professional conduct, trial courts are without jurisdiction to enforce those rules or determine attorney misconduct. The Indiana Constitution grants exclusive jurisdiction over attorney disciplinary matters to the Indiana Supreme Court. And then they cite the Constitution, Article 7, Section 4. And there's also an Indiana Appellate Rule 4B16B, and then they cite a case. Imposing attorney discipline and protecting a defendant's constitutional rights are separate matters. Again, you guys know from me doing a lot of reading with y'all, like when you see little quotations like that, that's how you, when you're citing a case, you're cherry picking language that you want from those cases, from the holdings that are basically supporting your position. So like here you see imposing attorney discipline and protecting a defendant's constitutional rights are separate matters. This court has repeatedly declined to step outside its jurisdiction and act as a disciplinary body to determine whether an attorney's actions are unethical. So those are all from cases. Those are holdings from cases, or at least language from cases. Refusing to address whether an attorney's conduct was unethical from Carter v. Knox. All right. And then concluding that a trial judge's violation of the code of judicial conduct was not a proper consideration for the court. So, and basically what they're saying is there's a couple of things, like don't confuse the concept of contempt of court with disciplinary action by the committee that oversees all the attorneys that practice in Indiana. It's a separate function. Like, and that's what this is talking about. Like in Illinois, we have what's called the ARDC. And if somebody has a complaint against you, that's who handles it. And ultimately, if you're going to be disciplined, it's handed down by the Illinois Supreme Court. And it's the same thing in Indiana. So if there's a disciplinary issue, which this could end up being down the road, like once this contempt thing is over, that in no way, shape, or form is going to absolve, no matter how it turns out. Like Baldwin and Rosie could go in with Hennessy at the helm, win this thing, and still turn around after this trial is over, and Andy or Brad gets a letter from the disciplinary committee, and they're like, all right, well, we were paying attention. We saw, even though you may have won that thing, we have issues with what you did. And then they'll have to deal with the disciplinary committee, which is a whole different thing. And it's a serious, like the entire endeavor is very, very, very thorough. Like, they'll say what the complaints are, and then you've got to respond. And that can go up to the point where you have like a hearing, to decide whether or not they're going to discipline you. So what I'm saying is they are separate things. They're very separate things. And one is not dependent on the other. Like I said, they could both end up getting dinged at the end of this, no matter what the result of this is. Now, if Gull ends up finding them in contempt, I can guarantee that they're going to be disciplined afterwards. So like people that are kind of wondering why they're fighting so hard, I think it's twofold. I think that both of these guys realize at this point that Gull may be gunning for him again. It very well may be her end game to boot them again. I would hope not, for the sake of the trial. I mean, at some point, like, when do the families and the defendant come into play here? Like I keep saying to everybody, I'm like, man, it's like this thing is bullshit, and it's not to minimize the leaked photos or to say that Andy and Brad should get a pass And it's really like I don't even know how Brad got sucked into it. Like, kinda everything that happened, unfortunately, was because of Andy's relationship with Westerman. I don't know, like, they don't practice together outside of this case. They have separate offices. As far as I've seen, like, there's nothing that Brad has done on Brad's watch that would require this kind of hearing for him. They're treating them as a team, and, like, when I had our like, we've had a thing where Allison, they were trying to sanction Allison in a case, and there were multiple lawyers that were trying it, and, they didn't include all of us, as kind of like a body. They went after Allison because they were going after Allison, I mean, they would like she was papering him to death. So they wanted to get rid of her. She was a thorn in their side. They wanted her off the case, and they ultimately succeeded. And it's kind of the same thing that's going on here. But my point being is that we're spending all the time and energy on this thing. In the meantime, we're 58 days away from trial. And I'm not going to belabor the point anymore in terms of that's the blink of an eye. It's the blink of an eye. Like, for us, it'll go quick. For the attorneys, it'll be like they wake up tomorrow and it's trial time. Goes that fast. So, I'm kind of at a loss, but, like, if Gull's gonna boot him off, I mean, like, they're not going to sit there. I'm assuming I'm assuming that they're going to then kick it up to the OA, like, file another writ, getting it from the Supreme Court again, and have them rule again, because the issues are the same as what they ruled on prior. Like, even though they hadn't had the hearing, the Supreme Court was more than aware of what was going on in terms of what Gull's issues were. It's not as if they didn't address them in that hearing. They went through them. And I mean, the opinion was pretty clear that even had you found all these things, we don't think that it reaches that level for the most part. And I don't see anything different here. So to me, this just could have waited until after trial. I mean, nothing's more important than trial. I mean, wouldn't you all agree? Like, no, again, no matter what side you're on this thing, nothing is more important than the trial. Nothing. Like, that has to take precedent over everything, but it's not. It's still not. So Nick's going to spend the entire weekend working on this, and so are Hennessy, Baldwin, and Rosie, when they should be preparing for trial. Like, a valuable weekend's lost, a valuable weekend where you could be talking to witnesses, where you could be lining up experts. It's like, it's just one of those things where, man, it's like, I don't get it, to be honest with you. But what do I know? All right. So the preamble of the rules provides in relevant part, violation of a rule should not itself give rise to a cause of action against a lawyer, nor should it create any presumption in such a case that a legal duty has been breached. In addition, violation of a rule does not necessarily warrant any other non-disciplinary remedy, such as disqualification of a lawyer in pending litigation. The rules are designed to provide guidance to lawyers and to provide a structure for regulating conduct through disciplinary agencies. They are not designed to be a basis for civil liability, but the rules must be used as non-conclusive evidence that a lawyer has breached a duty owed to a client. And then italicized, furthermore, the purposes of the rules can be subverted when they are invoked by opposing parties as a procedural weapon or as procedural weapons. So obviously, that's Hennessy's focusing on that particular sentence, saying that, intimating that Nick's using the rules as a weapon, a procedural weapon. The fact that a rule is a just basis for lawyers is self-assessment and for sanctioning a lawyer under the administration of a disciplinary authority does not imply that an antagonistic in a collateral proceeding or transaction has standing to seek enforcement of the rule. Does not imply that an antagonistic, that doesn't read right, in a collateral proceeding or transaction has standing to seek enforcement of the rule. And that is cited from the Indiana Professional Conduct Preamble, emphasis added. So then he goes on to the accidentally misdirected email issue. So basically, Hennessy's kind of going through point by point what he anticipates are the issues that Nick is going to be pointing out on Monday that are egregious enough to have these guys disciplined. And again, it's like you can't forget Osbrook's filing. Like ultimately, and this is going to go to that, like in terms of willfulness, like contempt of court can't be through negligence. It's got to be willful. You have to willfully be violating a court order. That's what it is. Like I've explained this to certain people that just don't get that concept. Like this isn't, I mean, like to me, like I've said before, McCleland's got to go in there and he's got to be able to put a witness on that is going to testify that Baldwin directed or gave Mitch the pictures with the intent of him distributing them. Short of that, there just isn't any contempt with respect to the leak because it wasn't willful. Like they had no knowledge of it. That's it's my opinion, but it's based on the law. So attorneys Baldwin and Rosie have fully explained how this happened. It clearly was not knowing, intentional, or willful. The law regarding indirect contempt just as clearly requires willful conduct. So I was just saying, accidental misdirection is a common occurrence for anyone that emails daily. See affidavits previously filed. The prosecutor in this case acknowledges the possibility of an accidental misdirected email at the bottom of his emails. We all do. I mean, every attorney that I know has that language at the bottom. Like, hey, if I sent this to you by accident and you're not the intended recipient, please delete it. I mean, it happens. It does happen. I mean, Gull had an arrest warrant on the docket this morning. I mean, shit happens. You know what I mean? It's like mistakes happen. We're not robots. We're humans. So most, if not all, users that experience such a follow-up requesting that it be deleted after learning it was sent to an unintended recipient. Additionally, the only thing related to this case that was sent was a defense-created outline organizing discovery. It describes the discovery, but not the contents of any of the discovery, to the extent it contained the first names of the victims it was intended for. All right. And it was intended for eternal use only. Furthermore, the first names were used publicly by the agents of the state from day one and incessantly thereafter. Contrary to the prosecutor's allegation, the accidentally misdirected email did not violate this court's gag order. That order specifically applied to, quote, means of public communication, end quote. The email at issue was private and sent to a single individual. Attorneys Baldwin and Rosie had no reason to suspect further dissemination by the unintended recipient. And if that did happen, they certainly had no prior knowledge of such and did not condone it. Lastly, the February 17, 2023 court order referenced by the prosecution cannot logically or realistically apply to an email sent in December of 2022. Now we get into candor towards the tribunal. Mr. McCleland has shared that it is his position that Mr. Baldwin was somehow required to voluntarily and immediately report the accidentally misdirected email to him in the court. He has not provided any authority for such a requirement, and the defense can find none. No requirement is contained in Rule 3.3 of the Indiana Rules of Professional Conduct. The rule prohibits making a false statement or failing to correct a false statement. Mr. Baldwin did neither. That rule also prohibits the failure to disclose legal authority known to be adverse, quote, to the position of the client. Mr. Baldwin has not done that. Lastly, the rule prohibits a lawyer from offering evidence known to be false. Mr. Baldwin has not done that. The commentary to the rule makes it clear that a lawyer has no duty to report such information, but only to ensure that the tribunal not be misled. Quote, consequently, although a lawyer in an adversary proceeding is not required to present an impartial exposition of the law or to vouch for the evidence submitted in a cause, the lawyer must not allow the tribunal to be misled by false statements of law or fact or evidence that the lawyer knows to be false. End quote. And he cites the rule. Mr. Baldwin was forthright and complete in his communications with the court about the email sent to the unintended recipient. Also, it is clear from the body of the email that it was addressed to Brad, not Brandon. I mean, like with that thing, with the email, there's no question. It was like anybody who uses, like we all do. I mean, like I've done it on more than one occasion because it auto populates as soon as I type in the first 2-3 letters of a name. And you know, like, and if I'm being sloppy, like I was today with the tweet, you know, like, I mean, my tweet, if X was a court and Gull was the judge of that court, I'd be fucked, you know, because that thing was egregious, you know, misstating who filed. So, like, yeah. I mean, it's just, we're humans. We make mistakes. Mr. Baldwin has not violated the rule, so it cannot constitute contemptuous conduct. Like the sent email is the weakest. Like everything short of the leak of the crime scene photos is bullshit, in my opinion. It's all whack. All right, so here we're going to get to the leak. Mr. Baldwin has not violated the rule, so it cannot constitute contemptuous conduct. Now we're at the leak. The leak complained of cannot be laid at the feet of the defense counsel. It is beyond cavil that they did not provide any part of discovery by photographs or otherwise to anyone outside the defense team, nor did they knowingly or intentionally allow anyone access to discovery materials. Mr. Holman refers to Mr. Baldwin as the victim in his report of his investigation of the Westerman leak. Detective Rector swore in an affidavit for the prosecution of Mr. Westerman that the Westerman photograph discovery, he photographed discovery items without permission or authority. This is just victim blaming by the prosecution because it does not like the victim. Furthermore, there was nothing in the dissemination by Westerman that would not eventually become public, which is what I was saying. You know, it's like the reality is there'll be some motions in limine with respect to which, and when we say public, like the courtroom is public. Now that doesn't mean like, so, because like people were getting all bent out of shape when I was saying this, that like, look, like this is evidence in the case. It's all going to be public. You know, I mean, like it's going to, everybody in that courtroom is going to be aware of it. Now, like the judge will have the opportunity to say, well, there's no way I'm going to allow the press to come up and take photographs and disseminate this stuff. So it's never going to make it out to the public at large. But in terms of a public trial, it has to be used. So the motions in limine, the defense will be fighting to keep some of it out, you know, but you've got this strange situation in this case where you've got the whole alleged rune situation, which unfortunately happened to have the girls in those photographs. You know, I mean, they're going to have to be used as part of the defense. So it's unusual because typically as defense counsel, we're fighting to keep those out because the pictures of the girls just inflames the jury. It just angers them. And like the ire is going to be pointed at the guy sitting at the defense table that's been charged for the crime. You know, I mean, so like we always fight diligently to try to minimize that as much as possible, you know, and typically we reach some kind of conclusion or it's not everything, you know, and the judge doesn't want it to happen either. Typically, like we're not trying to beat the jury over the head with, you know, the traumatic nature of the injuries and, you know, just to get the jury like running hot and just basically running on emotion alone and taking no consideration of the law. Like you don't want the jury getting there mentally. So everybody involved, except for maybe the prosecution, like does not want that to happen. So Furthermore, there was nothing in the dissemination by Westernerman that would not become public, which is a true story, like in terms of a court being a public proceeding. Now, like, and I have no idea what the judge's rules will be. I don't know if the people in the gallery will be able to see the evidence. Typically, you do. Typically, but every judge is different. It's a personal decision by a judge on a case, whether or not, and in Carroll County, we're not talking about high tech. We're talking about a courtroom that is, pretty low tech. So, like, I don't know, like, McCleland might roll a TV in there. You know what I'm saying? With that he's going to plug his computer into, and that's, so it's like, I don't know. Like the more modern type courtrooms, you put your computer on and they have screens that everybody in the courtroom can see what's going on. But they typically, like, the people, and we don't know if it's going to stream. I keep hoping against hope that it will, but at this point we don't know. We know that the 18th isn't going to stream. I'd be stunned if this thing streams, and if it does, it's because somebody put pressure on Gull. Like, and I'm talking about, like, from up on high, like this, just telling her it's too big of a case. I get you don't want to stream it. I get, why that might seem like a nightmare scenario with, like, all the craziness that's out there. But, like, to me, this particular trial, based on everything that's gone on, and I just think it's important. I think that society can learn from this. Like if people diligently watch trials, you're gonna learn about the law, and it's not like, oh, that lawyer's voice annoys me, or, oh, you should try to be picking up the things that matter, not the things that annoy you about the people that are trying the case. It's like, like being televised, having a televised trial is like a whole nother thing in terms of, like, that you're dealing with as an attorney, and like when you're in the middle of the fight, you're not thinking about it. But, like, when you go home at night, and if you unfortunately look at social media, and people will have you on blast for whatever annoying habits you have, like, it makes it tougher. And oddly enough, strangely enough, the defense very much wants this thing televised. So, and McCleland, not in favor of it. But I mean, in terms of it being tried in the sunlight and all of us being able to watch it, I think it would be a huge benefit. I do. I think every trial should be available for streaming. Like, no matter what, whether it's high publicity, low publicity, I think that everything, if, like, somebody wants to watch a trial without having to go to the courthouse, we've got the technology now. Why not? They're all supposed to be public trials. It is impossible to tell exactly what information on the internet came from where. Which is an interesting statement here. It's impossible to tell exactly what information on the internet came from where. I mean, like, that's what I'm assuming. Some of these witnesses that Hennessy has either subpoenaed, I'm assuming he subpoenaed most of them, are supposed to be answering. You know what I mean? So whether or not he's gotten those answered, I don't know. And what I like, and I have to be honest, I anticipate that Gull's going to have everybody back in chambers prior to this thing going, and she's going to probably ask for an offer of proof as to what Hennessy's hoping to show with these witnesses. Like, she's not going to be happy. Like, she does not love content creators. Like, that's been established. She doesn't think that content creators are actual media. Which I disagree with her on. I mean, I know a vast majority of people that get their news basically from social media, whether it be Twitter, whether it be YouTube. I mean, with the state of mainstream media, I mean, who could blame them? I mean, it's one of those things where this is as reliable, depending on what you're watching, where you're getting your information, but you could find just as reliable sources. I consider myself to be a pretty reliable source, to be honest with you. I'd put myself up against any mainstream media company that's giving news, and I'm more thorough. You know, it's like people that try to come at me. I'm like, dude, I'm reading the documents, bro. I'm explaining the law. You know, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? Like I have an actual purpose, and I've got the credentials to back it up. You know, it's like it's weird when people come at me. It's like I don't go at anybody. You know, it's like it's just like I kind of hate that side of YouTube. Like I haven't been doing this long. I'm like, what, since October? Like I'm a podcast guy. Like I'm not a YouTube guy. I'm a podcaster who does YouTube. And like my podcast is charted, been around for 2.5 years. I think it's great. A lot of people think it's great. So it's strange to me. You know, it's just like it's a very toxic community. Like I jumped in a live today where, you know, it's just like like people just like who clearly have never watched my content. Clearly, you know, who are just like reaming on me. Like I'm sitting here screaming that Rick Allen's innocent, which is not what I'm doing. Do I think that the PCA and the evidence that I've seen thus far leans innocent? Yes, I've said it a million times. Does that mean that if they have the evidence at trial and prove that he's guilty, that I'm going to still think he's innocent? Of course not. What I'm talking about right now and have been for months is the procedure to get to trial. And anybody that like follows my content knows that. I never talk about the underlying facts of the case. I didn't talk about the leaks. You know why? Because I didn't really care. I mean, when I say I didn't care, because in relation to the trial, once they didn't become public to the world at large, I then was no longer concerned with, one, the families being exposed to them, and two, that Rick Allen's fair trial was obliterated. Because if those had gotten out to the public at large and they were going out everywhere, Rick's screwed. Like there's no way, you know, I mean, those things would have gotten everywhere. It would have been a nightmare for the families and for Allen's fair trial. So like once that didn't take place, once I felt very confident that that wasn't happening, it no longer was of any relevance to me. And then like people are like, oh, you don't give a shit to the pictures of the family. I'm like, yes, dude, but there's two separate scenarios. There's how does it affect the families in the trial? In that, did they get out? You know, I would call it a drip from the get, because that's exactly what it was. Leak. It was less than a leak. It was a drip. And I'll die on that hill. It was a drip. It wasn't a leak. And it wasn't a flood. It was a drip. All right. So with regard, but I digress. So with regard to the Westerman leak, it is not known how many pictures he took of what. There have been a variety of descriptions as to what he said, as to just what he said, Fortson. The first leak about the case came from the search team shortly after the murders, according to the sworn testimony of Jerry Holman. The next came from Mr. Holman himself, according to Terry Williams. The leaks escalated after the arrest of a suspect. There were 2 probable cause affidavits leaked before they were publicly available. There was a leak of information about a bullet at the scene and a gun at Mr. Allen's house. Gary Burdett, Big Solves, published these leaks on November 22nd, 2022. He claimed his source was an employee of Judge Gull. I mean, if that turns out to be true, if somebody's putting Judge Gull's clerk on blast and can prove that she was leaking shit, that's not good. It's not good. You know, I saw some things out there that I think her name's Jody, that, you know, she shut down her Facebook page today, you know, because I think that people were catching wind that at least the defense is insinuating, and nothing means anything until there's proof. Like everything, them's just words, which is what I'm telling people all the time about PCAs and theories and all that other shit. Evidence is the only thing that matters. Until then, everything that either side is saying Them's just words. They mean very little to me. Truly. No matter who's filing what. I'm gonna turn my phone on silent. I'm getting constant notifications. Um, so we'll see. We'll see what's up. But if that turns out to be the case, and we got a Becky Hill Murdoch situation where she's got Alan pegged as a guilty son of a bitch, and like she's gonna do everything in her power to help him go down, we got a nightmare scenario. I hope to God that's not true. That would be beyond inappropriate. And I mean, Judge Gull would have to be like beside herself, like to expose your judge, if you're her clerk, to that kind of scrutiny where she's already taking a beating, by a portion of the people that are observing this case based on her running of the case. Man, like I am not rooting for that to be the case, by the way, at all, and no one should be. Like honestly, like that is a nightmare scenario. But the reality is, like when I'm sitting here thinking about it as a lawyer, remember judges do not see evidence typically, but in this case we had the major filing of the memo wherein 100 plus exhibits were attached to the Franks memo. So typically where a judge pre-trial does not have access to the discovery, they don't know what the evidence is. Remember, the judge is supposed to be unbiased. You don't want, and that's the reason that no judge in any county, in any state, is ever given a like their own copy of the discovery. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. Like the judge in a role where they're not the trier of fact, meaning it's not a bench trial, which is where the judge is the one deciding innocence or guilt instead of a jury. They don't see the evidence beforehand other than if motions are filed. Then they'll become privy to certain things. And at that point, when the judge is privy to evidence that they wouldn't otherwise know about until trial, and like when you're arguing about obviously evidence that's the state wants to get in or the defense wants to get in and the other side wants to keep it out, obviously they're hearing about that type of evidence because they have to. But like it's like the judge's job is, despite learning of certain evidence, they have to remain unbiased. That's their role. So they have to be able to rule on admissibility, but maintain as their duty to be an unbiased, an unbiased source and the gatekeeper of the evidence. So, man, I really hope that's not true. I really do. I hope that this Fig Solve guy is just like full of shit. Really do. Bodette references this video in a Discord chat session on April 2nd of 2023 as proof that his source, quote, works with the judge. And that he and Richard Allen, that he had the Richard Allen probable cause affidavit a week before the document was unsealed and made public. He said that he knew the defense attorneys would be DQ'd a week before they were, and that it was, quote, a win. There were leaks before attorneys Baldwin and Rosie were appointed. So I'm trying to understand. He said he knew the defense attorneys would be DQ'd a week before they were, and that it was a win. Like how? Was like Gull sitting in her chambers saying, yep, like out loud, I'm DQing him, to like no one in particular? Or am I supposed to believe that she's having conversations with her clerk? Yep, I'm DQing him. Fuck him. Or, she was sitting like, because a week before, where are we at? So when was that hearing? That was October 19th. So we're talking about October 12th. We're talking about like after maybe like the in chambers hearing, or maybe she's overhearing the phone calls. Like I'm trying to figure out, because it wouldn't be in writing, I wouldn't think, because we didn't see anything in writing for days after they were DQ'd. Like I think that it was a couple of days, because I think that fell on a Friday, and I think the order came out like Monday or Tuesday. So I'm just curious as to what in what fashion he was given the information. Like if there is short of writing, how is he finding out a week before it happens? Like, in what form did that take place? Is it the clerk overhearing Gull on a phone call? Like, it's hard for me to figure. Um, there were leaks before attorneys Baldwin and Rosie were appointed. On May 17th of 2023, Fox 50 reported on facts contained in a probable cause affidavit for the search of Ron Logan's residence filed March 17, 2023. Happy St. Patty's Day. Defense counsel had no access to that document. Only law enforcement and court staff did. Like, like the I don't know how effective, the two wrongs don't make a right approach is, like saying that there were other leaks. I don't know how it mitigates this one. You know what I mean? It's like I get it. Like, all of us have always talked about, and I think it was a widely spread rumor, maybe with some substance, that there had been multiple leaks in this case early on. I mean, it was 5 years. There's bound to be leaks. There's bound to be leaks in a case like this where there's this much interest. There's bound to be leaks. Typically, it's law enforcement or the prosecutors, in my estimation, but it's not like sensitive crime scene stuff. It's like it's like they're giving information that they want out to the press so that they're writing articles about it, just to get it out there, like a factoid. Something like a kind of a damning little factoid will get leaked. I dealt with the Omaha World Herald, and it was like I was at war with that guy, that reporter out there, because it was like that shit was like, and I had no idea who the source was. It was either the cops or the district attorney out there, or the county attorney, they call him there. So I mean, you just don't know. But like I just don't know how effective this is. It's certainly not going to sway Gull saying that, well, it's happened before. So, I mean, there was nobody to punish before. I mean, not really. I mean, like Logan's case, there was no arrest made as to the homicides with Logan's thing. I mean, like, there was nobody to admonish or file sanctions against. So defense counsel had no access to that document. Only law enforcement and court staff did. And I get what they're saying. Because that on September 29th, 2022, an email was sent from Tony Liggett to Debbie Lowe of Carroll County Comet concerning the special prosecutor investigation into Hatch Act violations. This final decision was under seal, and the case is still currently either blocked or sealed from the public view. On Gary Bodette, Fig Solves, doing a live about Richard Allen's arrest, he mentions that there will be evidence involving a bullet or a casing as part of the probable cause. Bodette references this video in a Discord chat session on April 2nd, 2023, as proof that his source, quote, works with the judge, and that he had the Richard Allen PCA a week before the document was utilized. On November 22nd, 2022, Gary Bodette, Fig Solves, who had communications with the prosecutor doing a live show about Rick Allen's arrest, mentioned that there will be evidence involving a bullet or a casing as part of the probable cause. So Bodette references this video in a Discord chat session on April 2nd, 2023, as the proof of his source works with the judge, that he had the Richard Allen probable cause affidavit a week before the document was unsealed and made public. Attorneys Baldwin and Rosie were not even appointed yet. Barb McDonald had a stick drawing, a photograph of the tree, and Professor Turco's report that could not have come from or be connected to the defense. Neither the Indiana State Police nor the Carroll County Prosecutor's Office have investigated the unrelated leaks. They only steadfastly targeted defense counsel. Any finding of contempt will be contrary to the facts and the law and will surely be reversed on repeal. Respectfully submitted, David R. Hennessy. Got your certificate of service. All right, so like kind of trying to figure out, like, I mean, to me, like, while I don't believe that the, two wrongs don't make a right situation, or, why aren't you punishing them too? Because they did the same shit. I don't necessarily like for Gull, that's not gonna matter, in my opinion. Like, I get why Hennessy did it, because it's true. It appears that there have been multiple leaks, you know. But I mean, like, in terms of it being, if it's law enforcement, what what are they gonna do? Because obviously the argument here, the real argument is that exactly what Hennessy termed it. This is the hearing to punish the defense attorneys. That's all it is. Like, at this point, because of the fact that Rick Allen's fair trial, his right to a fair trial, has not been affected by this, like, you can't view it any other way. Like, everybody who's like, "Oh, you don't want the hearing, you don't want the hear—" Who gives a shit about the hearing? If you wanna punish them after. Like, if you can't if I'm not being clear about what should be focused on by everybody in this case now is the trial and not this bullshit, I can't help you. It's not it's, like, not complex. The only people that could be saying, "Do this now," are the people that are hoping that they get bounced from the case. And then you have to ask yourself, why? Why do you want them to get bounced from the case? Because you're so mad at them because of the leak? Is that it? Because I'm telling you, you want competent counsel on both sides of this. And this leak thing, despite what other people have said, is no reflection on their competency in terms of being trial lawyers. None. Zero. Has nothing to do with it. What you can rely on in terms of determining their competency is their 50 plus years combined trial experience as trial attorneys. Trial attorneys are a specialized breed. They just are. Like, there are tons of criminal defense attorneys, tons of prosecutors. Prosecutors typically go to way more trials than defense attorneys, except for defense attorneys that are true trial lawyers, because a vast majority of criminal defense attorneys plead everything out. So when you get those dudes that go to trial, they're the real McCoy. They're the real McCoy. And, we're getting in a situation here where, you want to remove them again. And I have no idea whether or not they'll say, "Kara, would you be kind enough to write us another OA?" Like, Carol will happily do it, I'm sure. But the question becomes for these two guys, like, how long do they continue the fight? They're going up against a judge that, if she removes them again, is adamant against these guys trying this case. She does not want it to happen, which then the concern becomes, as an attorney, am I harming? Does this woman detest us so much that I am concerned that my mere presence, or our mere presence at trial, is going to affect Allen's ability to get a fair trial with her on the bench? Because she ain't going anywhere. She's sitting on this trial. That's it. Even if it goes up to another writ and another OA, and there's another hearing, and the guys are trying to get back on, she's not going anywhere. If we're all hoping that, like, oh, well, the Supreme Court, they're going to see that she didn't change her ways, they're not taking her off the case. Now that there's a 70-day in place, they're definitely not taking her off the case for that 70-day. For if strategically it was filed hoping that would handcuff, as I've suggested, that it was filed partially because of it was hoping to handcuff Gull from removing them, knowing that it would then affect Richard Allen's constitutional rights in a very real way now, because that's been said. In that thought, but what it also did is, I think that it locked Gull in, because it's the same argument as to Gull. if you're trying to remove her with the Supreme Court. They're like, we're not removing anyone. You have a trial set, and that could be like, even if they put a brick on it, or like they speed it through the system, and Kara gets something filed, and the Supreme Court's like, all right, oh my God, I want to kill all these people. Bring your asses in here. They hear the argument, and like Baldwin and Rosie are like, she's got to go. And she's like, they have to go. And the Supreme Court's gonna be like, are you people nuts? No one's going anywhere. Your asses have a trial set 10 days from now that is part of a speedy demand. No one's going anywhere. Knock it off. Get back in the courtroom and try the case. Like, that's what I think is going to happen. I really do. So, like, if that's your hope that they're going to get bounced, I think that would be the likely result, unless Baldwin and Rosie, I would be thinking about it. I'd be concerned about it. I'd be like, I've had situations like that in my career in front of judges that I know didn't like me. Alice and I are aggressive attorneys. We're not every judge's cup of tea, that's for sure. We know that going in, and like I've had cases where I've gotten verdicts that the judge was very upset that we got not guilties on. And then I had another trial and we decided to go bench, and it was scary, to the point where, I'm asking the judge on the record, I'm like, Your Honor, I know that you were upset by the result of that case. Like, I'm not challenging you. Like, it was a risky move by me. The judge could have been like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm holding you in contempt for even questioning my integrity and my ability to do my job. But fortunately he didn't, because I felt the need. My client was next to me. And I told my client, I'm like, this judge does not like us. And to go with a bench trial because the situation dictated it was a scary proposition. So I felt like I had to ask. I'm like, Judge, are you going to be able to be unbiased despite how you feel about us personally? And the judge, like, on the record, was like, of course. Like, that's in the past. Like, I'm not holding grudges. And it was like incredibly comforting to me. And ultimately that judge came back with the not guilty in that particular case. So it was like, and it was a hard fought trial. So, like, but I can see a world in which that becomes an issue, or something that Brad and Andy are talking about, where like is us continuing to fight to stay on in the best interest of our client. I mean, I think it is, in terms of them being the lawyers for them, because I think they're very, very good lawyers. But it's like, does that outweigh the fact that Gull, because like the ways that Gull can affect the trial is by allowing things in that she might not otherwise allow in, or, just like her rulings in general. Like, if she's making adverse rulings out of spite, like, you can't prove it. You can't crawl inside of her head. We all know how it looks for appearance sake, but man, like, you're never going to know definitively. You can't prove it. I don't know. It's a mess. This whole thing's a fucking mess. I really, really just want this trial to go, like for everybody's sake. I have to be honest. Like this thing on Monday is like a burning car wreck, like out of like just pure interest. I'm going to be there and I want to watch it, but I just want it known. I hate it. There's like no part of me that they like, it's ridiculous. And I'll die on that hill. And don't confuse that with me saying that I don't think that the crime scene leak is a big deal. I do. But in terms of the fact that we have a trial set where they're trying to get justice for these two little girls, and this guy's got his constitutional rights at stake, everybody needs to be focused on that, not this bullshit. Like, am I not being clear about that? If I see one more person misconstrue what I'm saying when I could not be more articulate about it, I'm going to have a problem with you. Like, seriously. If you cannot see what the issue is with Nick McCleland not preparing for trial 58 days out, then you're blind. You really are. You have no clue. Like, you know nothing about the practice of law. That's evident. If that's your mindset, like, who gives a shit? He'll be ready. It's 58 days. It's 60 days. It's nothing. It's the blink of an eye. and he already doesn't have enough help. Like I don't know how more effectively I can say that so that maybe he'll get it. All right, rant over. Um, and same with Baldwin and Rosie, but like they've got Hennessy dealing with this shit. Like I don't like we know that Andy's working on the underlying case because he's making filings. So they are not having to divert all of their attention to this thing. Whatever. All right. I think I'm done with this basically. There might be a little bit more. So on May 17th, 2023, Fox 50 reported on facts. Did I finish reading that? Like when it's going on a rant, I forget where I was at. Sorry. On May 17th, 2023, Fox 50 reported on facts containing a probable cause affidavit for the search of Ron Logan's residence. Oh, yeah, I finished. Yeah. All right. Sorry. Never mind. Just kidding. All right. So I'm going to go through, see if we got any questions because I'm not staying on here long tonight. I've already gone way over. I was thinking, 40 minutes. Then I'm done. He gone. Okay. Boy, and just so you guys know, like when I'm on the chat or when I'm reading, I'm not seeing shit in the chat, but like I read something in a like in one of my Facebook groups, like in particular the Delphi Facebook group with the Insiders Facebook group, which if you like this content, you should probably go over there. It's pretty simple. It's free, and there's a lot of people in there. And I've carved out groups and somebody was talking about like how some people are afraid to come in here. If you're on the opposite side of this, and I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not the case. I like my mods know. I do not want anybody who thinks I'm the biggest asshole and completely wrong about everything to come in here and feel like they can't have their say. That is not what I want. And if my mods are foggy on that, I don't care. Short of name calling, if you've got an opposite opinion on something, you have every right to be in here. Like I am not that guy. I'm truly not. I need you to understand that. And I want my mods to understand it because I was concerned with it when somebody's like, well, and that means that not just my mods, but that the people that are on the opposite side of those folks behave yourselves. And that the rule applies to everybody. If you can't be civil, if you can't use your words, if you can't act like an adult and have an actual discussion or debate without devolving to name calling, I like there's no place for you here on either side. And I love my chat. I do. I love all my subs. I'm not asking you something that's hard. I'm asking you to be civil. I get it. This is one of those cases. This is one of those cases that gets people heated on both sides. I get it. I do. I really, really do. And I know that passions run high. I get it. But calm the fuck down. Like everybody. Man, like you guys don't get it. I argued for 20 years plus for a living. I know how to do it. I had to always be on my best behavior. Otherwise, my ass is getting thrown in jail for contempt. I'm arguing the opposite position for a living professionally. I am different than other YouTubers, short of creators or podcast hosts that are attorneys. Those are the only ones you can compare me to. And if they weren't criminal defense attorneys, they can't compare. It's a different comparison. Civil law is a different beast than criminal law. Just is. Divorce law is a different beast. Criminal defense attorney is a very specialized field, just like civil defense is, or plaintiff's law on civil cases. It's very, very specialized. And what I do for a living and have done, I mean, because I don't give a shit what anybody says. Like people are like, oh, the murder sheets put you on blast. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I honestly don't give a shit. Like I wouldn't do that to them. because I'm above it. I don't care. This isn't a race for me. Pleadings come out, pleadings get filed. I read them. Simple. People like, oh, you gonna defend your position? I'm like, I don't have to defend shit. Look at the filing date on the thing. It's filed on the 13th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I went live at 8. End of story. End of conversation. This isn't a competition between me and Murder Sheet who can get. I am on the defense side of this. I've made that very clear. Like people acting like they're exposing that I'm working with the defense. I will tell you again, if I was a licensed attorney in Indiana, I would more likely than not would be absolutely offering my services pro bono in this matter, especially with all this shit going on the front end. I would be the Hennessy's, I would be the Michael Osbrook, and I would be the Carol Winnicke's of the world. Bob Mata would be right there. I am a defense bar guy. Make no bones about it. I think that what has gone on in this case procedurally has been a sham. I think that creators sitting out there trying to change the course of this case by making a leak that did not turn into a leak, but was a drip, is a death knell for somebody's chosen counsel who've never tried a case in their life is bullshit. That's what I think about it. And I would say it to anybody right to their face. The thing about me is if you want to talk to me, you know where I am. And I'll talk about anything. But and I'm happy to do it to right in front of people's faces. I won't say a damn thing about anybody behind their back that I would not say to their face. That is a life rule for me. And I mean it. So, all right, let's see if we got some questions. Sorry, I'm ranty. Like the past couple days have just been like it's getting weird. I do what I do. My content is here. You see, like my content is going over the filings, explaining it to people, talking about the law, and that's it. And like people suggesting that I don't read both sides. I read if the state files something. McCleland never files shit. You want me to do? Every time he files something, I read it. Of course, I'm critical of the defense. Like somebody's like, you're never critical of the defense. Yes, I am. I think if I disagree with the strategy they're taking, I say it. And I know that they're like the family members of the lawyers are probably watching my shit. But I would say it to their face strategically. That's the difference between me and other creators. Like I've got 20 years of trial experience. I can impart my opinion, which people may accept or reject, but I've got valuable opinions. So does Allison. Like that's the difference. Like for people that don't understand that, it's bizarre to me. I don't know, man. Like, so it's hard for me to stay off the soapbox tonight. It's like just people are like, oh, the murder sheets. Like, I'm like, dude, I don't care. I really don't. But if Anya and Kevin would like to have a discussion with me on Monday, I'm here for it. Because I don't like this approach that they're taking, to be honest with you. As to me, they could do whatever they want with anybody else. I've never done anything to them ever. And if they don't like that I had Hennessy on, well, maybe don't do a podcast episode shitting on a guy who's practiced law for 40 years. That's my opinion on it. And again, I would tell you that right to your face. And if you're watching or you have people watching, I'm telling it to you right to your face. I thought that was shitty. Simple. I saw no merit in it at all. Other than to try to get clicks or listens. That's it. That's my opinion. You want to poke me, I'm going to poke you back. I didn't say a goddamn word about you until you started putting my name in your podcast. I got a problem with it. And if you'd like to have me on, I'd happily come on and I'll be as civil. Or you can come on my podcast. You want to come on my podcast? I got one too that gets as many listens as yours. All right. What's this? Why are you bringing that thing back up? Is that something I need to care about? No, take it off. All right. Best guess for the most likely outcome Monday. All right. So Canadian girl, $2.79 holler. Like, how do you get like? Is there a slider or something? How do you get a weird number like that? Like not weird in the sense that I'm not grateful that you just donated $2.79, but it's like I don't understand. Like it seems like it's always a. All right. Best guess. I think, sadly, I think that Gull's going to remove him again. That's. I hope I'm wrong. I do. Uh, I just think it's and I like in I don't know if I finished the thought, but I think what's going to happen is when they get there, that Gull's going to have everybody. I know I started to talk about it. Gull's going to have everybody back in chambers. He's going to ask Hennessy for an offer of proof, what he intends on showing with these witnesses, and I would not be surprised at all if Gull's going to say, "Nah, that's got no evidentiary value to me." Like for all these creators go like that are there, like and some of them are probably excited, some of them are probably shitting their pants. That like I can see a world in which she's saying, "No, I don't think you put any of these people on. They're irrelevant. They don't have like short of one of them saying something that changes the narrative of what we know. That being that Westerman snuck into your office because we have a sworn affidavit to that effect. You know, if you have a witness that's going to say that they forced Westerman to write that affidavit, that didn't really happen. Short of that, no one's going to have anything that I need to hear. You know, so I don't know. So like I think unfortunately, yeah, but the thing is that Hennessy and Osbrook are right. Like an appeal, or if it goes up in an OA, like they're like this was not the proper vehicle to get this done. Like we don't even know what it is. Like people that aren't lawyers, I keep hearing them say it's like a hybrid of a civil and a criminal contempt. There's no such thing. Like if you're going criminally, you have to like you have to understand you can't file criminal contempt against a defendant's lawyers under the same case number. That means that you'd be charging Rick Allen with contempt of court, not Brad and Andy. It needs its own separate case number. In case you didn't understand Michael Osbrook's argument, which was abundantly clear. Guy's a great legal writer. You know, as far as civil, I mean, these are simple concepts. If it's not willful, it's not contempt of court. Contempt of court doesn't happen from negligence. That's the entire point. You would like willfulness. It means that you know that a court order exists and you're purposefully violating it. Am I like, do you guys get that? Like the people that don't understand that, willfully, that you're purposefully violating the court order. And nothing that I read from what Nick filed, none of that was done purposefully. None of it. Not the leak, not the email. What, like them filing a safekeeping thing to try to get Rick moved, you know, and like, you know, because like everyone knows what the prosecution theory is on this. You know, that look, Allen confessed on the jail lines. How convenient. How convenient that now he's being tortured. I mean, that's clearly like, and if I'm Nick McCleland, that's 100% what my argument is too. That doesn't mean that it's true. And it doesn't mean that it's like, we don't know. Like, we honestly don't know. Like, I have zero position on it because I don't know. I am not privy to that. It could be that McCleland's 100% right, that was a move, but notwithstanding that, that's not contempt of court. Trying to get their guy moved. And the things that we know that were true in terms of their inability to meet with their client in private, in and of itself, is enough to have him moved out of there. The guy has to be able to prepare for trial with his lawyers in private. He has to be. Um, all right, let's see. So I like sadly, I believe that ultimately, God, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I really I hope that she says, I'm gonna sentence you each to 15 days in jail. I'm gonna stay that until after trial, at which time Baldwin and Rosie will appeal it, and they'll win, because of everything that I just said. It's not willful contempt, and it's certainly not criminal contempt. It's not even close. Uh, so, but like, I mean, the thing that we know, like I've said tonight already, like Go wants them gone. Go wants them gone. Which, again, to me, if that happens, the biggest question then becomes for Brad and Andy to figure out: are we hurting Rick Allen by trying to keep fighting to stay on? Are we acting in his best interest to stay on? It's a tough question to answer because if they weren't skilled litigators, I'd say no. You got to bounce. But if the answer is they're going to put Labredo back on the case, who is, in Gull's courtroom every single day. I mean, he's the public defender, the head public defender in Allen County. And she's the chief felony judge. So the head PD is getting the big felony cases along with, I'm sure, other PDs in the office, and a lot of them are going to be in front of Gull. I'm sure if somebody's pulled the stats and looked at it, I mean, I'm sure he's in front of Gull all the time, daily. Not on trials, but like you guys have to understand there's statuses all the time, like cases you guys see now. We're in there every 30, 40 days on every case that we have on our docket, whether you're private PD, and PDs have a million cases. So, when he's probably in that courtroom, like that might be his courtroom. Like you always see the same prosecutors in the same courtroom, same judge, and the same PDs all the time. That doesn't mean the PDs aren't bouncing around, but so I don't know. It's disconcerting. Like if anybody involved on the bench side of it, like really cared about what was in the best interest of both the families and Rick Allen, she's not doing it. I have to tell you, if like she surprises me and doesn't do it, it will restore, it will cure a lot of the ill will that I feel about her performance in this case. Because then I'll know, like I'll feel like, well, you know what? She's finally done something that I can like absolutely say was the right thing to do, even though she didn't want to do it. And we all know she didn't want to do it. It would be a huge move for her not to do that. I think it would restore my faith in her ability to sit on this trial, to be honest with you. I really do. Like, I mean, it's that big of a decision because the shit show that will happen either way, whether Brad and Andy try to get back on or whether new counsel has to come back on, and how are we dealing with the 70 day? We've just obliterated Allen's right to a speedy trial. Because I mean, those guys have like, I don't see how she can take them off. I just don't. It's so crazy. It's like if it was a different case, I'd be like, of course she's not taking them off. Of course, that's absurd. There's a trial date. I'm hoping because she set that trial date that she has established. Nope, they're staying. And they're just gonna have to deal with my wrath. Like I said, I've tried cases in front of judges that can't stand me many, many a time. So they'll survive it. They'll do their job, and she'll do her job. I have zero doubt. So hopefully she slaps him on the wrist, either docks him money, makes him work pro bono for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever, which they'll feel, especially because it doesn't sound like Brad's still getting paid, still not getting his checks. So I don't know. Keep your head up, Bob. Aw, family hug. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate you, girl. Uh, Gosh, a $20 holla. Bob, I really appreciate your honesty and integrity. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's nice to see this in true crime genre. Thank you for all you do and keep us educated and informed. I try. Some people don't like what I have to say, but It's like all I can speak is my truth, and not everybody's going to agree with it. And like the thing that people just don't get about me is like they're like, "Oh, but like Mada's like," I am not talking about like ever talking about Alan's guilt or innocence beside how I feel, which way it leans. I don't know because we haven't gone to trial. I haven't seen the evidence. Like that just seems to get lost on people, or they're just not willing to hear it. People are like, oh man, it's so frustrating. It's like not being heard. It's fucking rough. Thank you so much for that generosity. Uh LS $5 holla. We appreciate the documents in your content. Other BS is just noise. Heard. Agree. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for your generosity. Wow, look at this one. Whispers in the Wind. $50 holla. MVP of the day. Super sticker. Thank you so much for that generosity. Like, it really, like, you guys don't know, like, when you decide to say, you know what, I'm gonna give this fucking big mouth dude some money because he speaks some truth and I'm here for it. Like, it means a lot to me. It really does. Like, for any creator that cares about what they're doing. Like, when you guys give us that kind of love, it's just, and I am a, like, if you know anything about me, I lift up. I am not the terror down. Like, I am not the competition guy. Fuck everybody else. Like, I am the diametric opposite. If you know anything about me, I try to boost up everybody that I love. That's a creator. I go into their chats. I'll do if they're working hard. Like, because I don't honestly don't get the opportunity to go into many lives, and it's not because I don't want to hear the content. It's just I'm busy. I got a lot of shit going on. Aside from all the content I'm putting out, it's like I got stuff going on, so I but I always try to, and more importantly, like to shout them out. I like to raise them up. I like them to know that I'm there for them, and I'm trying to support their growth. This isn't a competition to me. It's really not. Like, as far as I'm concerned, the more the more good content we have out there, the more choices we have, the better. Like, I never look at it any other way than that. I really don't. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Whispers in the Wind. All right. If I fuck this up, Cassie at the bat, or I'm going to assume it's just like the great poem Casey at the bat. I'm going to guess, just one of the greats. Gifted 20 Defense Diary podcast memberships. Wow. And I have not seen you, Casey at the bat. So you're coming in hot, and I massively appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that every single person that was a recipient of your generosity thanked you in the chat, because that's awesome. So, 20 family hugs. Love that. That's great. It's great. Like when I go through this, I like to save this to the end, because if I was in a shit mood, like, just getting upset thinking about this thing, this makes me feel better. It really does. I love giving the family hugs. I just it's so thank you guys. Shiraz, an always giver, gifted another 20. Wow, man. Thank you so much. Aw, family hug. I love that. Thank you so much for your generosity. Don Burke, always, like, every time, Don, Shiraz, it's like the usual suspects. Um, just always shock me. It's weird, when you start these, it's like I did the pod, I do the pod. You never know if it's gonna resonate with people. I got a pretty decent radio voice. I can tell a story. I could write a little bit, so it's like I know my serialized shit. And if you guys don't listen to this podcast, I'm telling you, start with Gacy. Start with Gacy. It's not about the creep. It's not some fanboy Gacy shit. It's about the victims. It's about the investigation. It's about the arrest and the trial. It's great. I mean, it really is. Like, and I'm not afraid to say that. I don't feel like a douchebag, like tooting my own horn. It's great. I've seen and read everything that they've ever done on Gacy, and our thing. that Darren and I did is the best thing that's ever been done, bar none. It's 36 episodes. It's fucking epic. It's epic. You show me a podcast where you got lead counsel for the defense to read his entire opening statement into the pod that he gave at trial 40 years ago. And then you go and get the prosecutor, the head prosecutor, Bill Kunkel, to read his entire closing that put that motherfucker down. You tell me another pod that's done that. And that's how I end it. Everything in between, listen to the podcast. If you like anything that I do on here, listen to it. And don't go listen to this shit. You're watching this live. Like my Delphi stuff, we're just converting these into, the podcast. So if you've already watched this, like the other content we have, like Garcia, which I know people are pissed at me because but like pretend season 6 is coming. I have 51 episodes of Garcia. People like complaining, like it's a process for me. Like I have to write the scripts. My scripted, like my serialized stuff is scripted. It's not just like I'm puking shit out or I'm like getting on there bantering. That's the docket with Allie, which I know we're behind on Avery too. I can't do anything. Like when I get Allie for an hour, like I'm lucky for a live. Like I'm just not in a position to be able to record with her now because I can't take her away. Because like an Avery episode takes us 3-4 hours for one episode, and I just can't pull her away. So, but you're heard out there. And I take it as like a huge compliment that you're pissed at me because you want more content. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I get it, but stick with me. Like there's no shortage of content, like generally. So I just hope that y'all will hang with me. And like the pod's my baby. Like the YouTube, I enjoy doing it. I really do. Like I love doing it with Jay. I obviously adore doing it with Allie. And like people are rough on Allie. I don't like that. Don't be rough on my wife, please. Like me giving like that's a shtick. Like with the reading thing. That's not like Allie, she fucking backs me all the way. And I'm very defensive about my wife. And she's brilliant in ways that I can't even understand. It's like I'm her biggest fan. Don't ever like she knows I'm gonna read shit. It's kind of like it's our shtick. Like you guys are seeing us raw. Like if you want some kind of like fake shit, we ain't your folks, dude. Like when you see me and my wife, you're seeing people that've been together 22 years who actually still love each other and who can talk to each other in ways that we're not a sitcom. We're not the Dick Van Dyke Show. Like we're real. We're passionate, two passionate people. I'm Italian, Irish, Scottish, and she's Jewish. And like we go. Like, my God, you ever saw one of our fights, you'd be like, holy shit. They never get physical, but we're loud. We're a loud house. Like our whole house is loud. All my kids are loud. Allie and I are loud. So don't worry about her, please. Like, don't worry about me. It's like the things that you see between us are like, and like we just don't like the only time that we're going to be really more polished is when we do the morning drop. Like there's going to be very little banter. We're just trying to give you all the breakdown of what happened the day before in the courts, what's coming up this day, if there's any big true crime stories, and it's going to be more, I mean, obviously we're going to talk, we're trying to bring a different game. We're trying to give like a different thing for people to watch to get their news. That's not your typical like court TV. It's going to be cool. It's going to look like a 50s diner. It's cool. I just found out that finally like the 50s diner bench seating that I ordered and had to have custom made is coming. It's like en route. The morning drop is coming, y'all, and it's going to be good. So check for that. Like I'll obviously be promoting it. And it's going to be daily, every day, unless I'm on vacation. Like I've been thinking, like, what do I do? Like if I'm on vacation, can I never go on vacation again? Because people are like, oh my God. Like, I mean, the show must go on, right? I might have to deal with that later. AKA Radar, $5 holla. Appreciate you. Bob, have every attorney in Indiana that you can pack the courtroom. She will recognize them. Maybe a member of SC or AG too. I mean, it's a pretty good idea. For any of you Indiana lawyers out there, let's go. Come on, get online with me. Let's go in. Let's pack it. Let's do it. Yeah, like I don't know. I'm going to be able to get the Supreme Court people, justices in there. Send them an email, dear justices. Be awfully great. Oh my God, Nav the EO. Like I was just talking about Nav the EO, like on somebody else's stream. You're incredible. I wish I knew who you were, because like I really want to give you like the biggest hug, like not even a family hug, like a virtual one. I would give you an actual hug. Your generosity blows my mind, man. Like seriously, or woman. Thank you so much. Dude, like you're building an army for me, saying like individually. Like I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much. And you're an OG to top it all. And always giver, like an insanely generous giver and an OG all to boot. Man, you should send me I'd like to send you some stickers and some merch. Honestly, DM me. Like give me your address. Even if you don't want to give me your name, just give me your address so I can send you some shit, man. It's like it's too much. I can't take that kind of generosity without reciprocating. So thank you. Jen, $10 holla. Bob and Allie, I love coming to law school every day with you. Love that. Thanks for your dedication to your viewers and listeners. You are beyond wonderful. I appreciate that so much, John. And you are an always giver. You're a mod for me. You're amazing. Thank you so much. Meg P, again, always giver, a mod. My mods, like you have no business giving me money. Like you all give me more than enough by just being here modding for me. And I know how these chats can get. This is not an easy mod job. Like I do not make it easy on you. I try. You know, I want people to be cool. Just be cool. Be cool. You know what I need, Stevie? Are you still Stevie left? All right. So I want that sound clip. Like if we can get just the little part of Sam Jackson from Pulp Fiction. Like he'll know what I'm talking about. It's the diner robbery scene. It's pretty good. Telling some people to be cool. Thank you again, Meg. So that's 5 family hugs. Appreciate you. Thank you for giving. Like I'm sure the people that were gifted those are ecstatic. So Lucky Lou, love that. $2 holla. Appreciate you, Lucky Lou. Thank you. Seeking Justice, $20 holla. Sending you a hug and a holla. Aw, thank you, because you've been working your butt off. I actually have. And it's hard, you know? It's like I'm a human and like I got people coming at me. I got weirdos writing letters and putting my name in. It's just like, I got the murder sheet, like trying to cast shade on me. Like it's weird. Like I don't know. I don't get it. Really don't. It's unprovoked. Really is. KT, new member. Family hug. Welcome to the family, KT. Hope you like it. Case closed with CJ. Nice. Gifted 1 Defense Diaries podcast membership. Thank you very much. And you're not even a member yourself. Wow. I mean, like you could have gone the route of becoming a member, but you are so generous and wonderful that instead you gifted it to somebody. Thank you so much. Case closed. Appreciate you. Dawn, again, 10 down. Like Dawn, you're too much. Knock it off. Quit giving. You're amazing. Thank you. Kidding. Family hugs 10 times. Appreciate you. Mag, same with you though. Seriously, y'all. I appreciate you so much, Meg. Family hug 5 times. Emily, $5 holla. $5 holla. Thanks for hanging with us on a Friday. I don't have shit better to do. You know, it's like I'm resting up, driving out to Allen County on Sunday, getting ready to get in line early. Les Gull's blacklisted me from the courtroom. That keeps popping in my head. She's like, like this Frank guy's letter really has put Bob on blast. Like, I'm not sure what he's saying about him, but Like this Bob Motta guy, look out for him. What? Meg? No. What? Aw. 10 Defense Diaries podcast memberships. Thank you so much. Meg, you're a lot. You're amazing. Like if you're like if any of y'all are coming to CrimeCon or CrimeCon UK, if like any of you live out there, oh, ATS, thank you. Finally, I'm so glad. Thank you so much for becoming a member. I love your content too, by the way. So thank you for hanging with us and thank you for becoming a member. It's awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What else we got? I don't want to miss anybody. Erica Morris. Aw, welcome. Appreciate you. Thank you. So glad you're here. Oh my God, Dawn, quit. You could just Dawn. You don't have to give me money every time you want to ask a question. Just put. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm thank you for it. Like, but like Allie would be punching me in the face if she heard me saying that. But like you've earned some questions without having to pay me. I'll read your shit, girl. Don Burke, as you say, who would benefit if she kissed him off again? Obviously, I mean, clearly, I mean, not the families, who doesn't benefit? Rick Allen and the families. That's who does not benefit. Hopefully that is in the back of her mind. Hopefully that is in the back of her mind because that just delays it. It delays it even more. Like forget October. Like that's come and gone because she's putting Scremin and Libredo back on. They're starting from scratch again. Talking like 2025, yo. Hello, Spring. Aw, what's up? Welcome over. Thank you so much. $20 holla. Safe travels to Delphi. We all are behind you praying. Appreciate you. Hello, Spring. Thank you so much. Appreciate you always. Oh, Missy Mayhem. I'm sorry if I ate into your kick. And by the way, Missy Mayhem, mod, wonderful human being, has a kick. Throw Missy's link for her kick. And she's great. She's great. She's family. She's true family. So thank you so much for being a member for 4 months. That's amazing. Thank you, Missy. Donna White, safe travels, Bob. Appreciate that $10 holla. Appreciate that. I'm lonely though, because I roll alone. Allie stays back and she watches Scout and hangs with the fam. So it's like those are kind of lonely trips, but I always enjoy it. $5. Expect the unexpected Monday. Thank you, Bob, for all you do. I'm with you. Like I don't even know what to expect. It's like I run the gamut. It's like I'm not like I could talk myself into she's booting him all night, but then on the other side of it, I can completely talk myself into she won't do it because it's gonna hurt the family. I don't know how much she cares about Rick Allen's rights, but I have to believe that she cares about the family getting this thing to trial. Like the only thing I could think is if she's like of the mindset that Nick is not ready, I could see her doing it. You know what I mean? But it's like I don't like it doesn't play right with the 70-day speedy trial. It's like it's a cluster. I'm telling you. Thank you so much for that $5 holla. Kathy Simmons, thank you so much. Number 1 for being a member. Number 2 for that $5 holla. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Women doing impossible things. I love that. Absolutely love that handle. $2 holla. Who's going at it? There was somebody and I don't want them to feel bad, but it was like a long rant at Allie for how she's always like, oh, you got to read the whole thing. And all right, like when I do my diatribes, and like Allie will kind of like give me a little pat on the butt, like move along a little bit. Like somebody took exception to it. It was a long rant, like to the point where I was reading it to Allison and I saw it hurt her, which is why I brought it up. Like we're humans over here, Remember that. We got thick skin because we're forced to because of what we've done for a living for a long time. But it is tough to be on the other side of the camera, y'all, especially when you're covering a case like this. And that's facts. Oh, defense attorney Meow, 3 months and A new little, I don't know what they call that, the profile pic? Like, what is that thing? Like, upped the game. Like that. Cool. Welcome, and thank you for being a member for 3 months. Thanks for all your time and effort. Thank you for always hanging with us. Appreciate you. Rumor has it, member for 1 month. Aw. Thank you, Rumor has it. I appreciate you. Thank you, Bob, for everything. I love this channel. We love you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Mama Libra Scales, member for like, oh, gee. I'm glad that we can always count on you to teach. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I'm really trying to do, uh, I realize on this particular case that I am certainly I'm supporting the defense bar is the way that I try to explain it to people. Like I am part of I'm a member of the National Defense Bar. Like I've been a defense attorney for a long time. We're considered like the defense bar is a thing. And when I feel like defense attorneys are being attacked in a way, like I'm going to be on that side of it. Like on any case, if I don't think it's legitimate. And I get it. I get that the leak sucked. I do, but it just didn't like what is happening in this case is beyond it. It just is. Dr. Von de Kay, thank you for that $1. Where was I at yesterday? And I was surprised to see you in there. I can't remember. It was like kind of an antagonistic, I can't remember. You weren't alive, and I was a little bit surprised to see you in there. Like, cause they were giving you a little heat because you're always in here. Like, and I think that I think that you enjoy our streams. I was surprised that you were in there. I can't remember which one it was. Like I'll bounce around. I like to pop around and see what other dudes are saying for like 5-10 minutes. Sometimes we'll throw a chat in there. All right. So that'll do it. I was starting to lose people anyway. Like, oh, dude, I don't need to listen to this guy thank people for shit. So I get it. All right, y'all. I love you. Thank my mods. You guys are amazing. Zero notice per usual. Friday night, screwing you out of your good times and being out to dinner and hanging out with your friends or hanging out with your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, whatever. I appreciate you for being here with me. I've already kept you too long, like 2 hours. I was supposed to do 45 minutes. I'm the worst. I'm a terrible, terrible person. I'm sorry. Thank you guys. Thank you to every single mod on here. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And to you guys, my subs, people just on here, chilling, lurking. Don't lurk. Don't lurk. Make yourself known. There's nothing to be afraid of. I'll protect you. Trust me. You're getting heat because you're on the opposite side of something. Even I say, you tell me, I got your back. I promise you. Promise you. I won't allow for it. I'm not allowing people to get bullied in my shit, even if they hate me. As long as you're cool and you're civil, I got you. All right, so y'all, I'm gonna bounce. Thank you so much, because as you know, without you, just kidding, I'd be an old man. Talk about old cases and new. Talk at you next time.